would just get started, and then if other folks join along the way, great. Well, welcome everybody to this edition of Pricing Pros, and I am I'm Rebecca Cooper, and I'm not claiming to be a pricing pro. It's all about getting up, showing up, and putting in the workout and the reps to get better and better at pricing. So today we're going to look at a property that's not currently on the market, but I happen to know it's coming soon because it's in the Village Coming Soon list, and that's 756 Alloway Street. And we're very fortunate today that we have the listing agent for this property on the call. It's Teddy Pins. So he'll be able to give us some, maybe some color commentary along the way, maybe take over and drive a little bit, because he's already run comps on this property multiple times, and so he can give us insight into his thought process, his logic, his just a couple of notes overall as we've talked. Running comps isn't a one and done exercise. It's an iterative process. So and I'll just tell him myself, oftentimes in the past, not anymore, I'm not running comps until I'm about ready to list something and I need to know now, and I need to have the conversation with the seller, right? So, but that's not how it's supposed to be. It needs to be part of your preparation for a listing or a buyer presentation, not to share, but to prepare, right? And then after you've had that conversation, that discussion with your seller, or even with your buyer, if you kind of know what your buyer is looking for, then you go back, run comps again based on what you know, what you've seen, what you've heard, and go through a process. And lastly, running comps, it needs to be a practice, like going to the gym. So we don't want to just do it in January and then in July we're wondering why we're not very good at this. So all right. And with that, we'll take a look at 756 Alloway Street. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. Morning, Dee, Annie, Andy, Andrea. So I see Andrea, some people who have joined Lon. All right.
You haven't met, I don't think you've met Jandy yet. He goes by Jandy. It's J. Andy.
Oh, the J. Andy. Gotcha. Jandy.
The Jandy friends. Jandy.
I've heard about Jandy.
Jandy, you're going to have to talk about naming challenges at the end of this or another time, because I'm curious how you're going to. I actually changed my name to Teddy. I'm born Theodore. I've been Ted most of my life. And I got tired of saying Ted Pins because nobody can understand it. They hear Tim Pines or Ted Penis or whatever awful thing I answer to. And so I just finally said, you know what? Spent my whole life trying to not be Teddy after you're past the age of 9. So I was Ted. And then I figured, you know what? When I redid my branding for its second iteration, I just said, F it, I'll be Teddy Pins. Still sounds weird, but I had to commit to it, and I had to put it everywhere, and it was a real thing, though. It's just my friends, some of my close friends in the past were like, "Do I have to call you Teddy?" I'm like, "No, please don't." But if you do, fine. Like now, it's like I don't care as long as they call me clients and stuff. It just you get tired of explaining it every time or mispronouncing it. So,
tell me about it.
What's that?
Tell me about it. I have one of our credit bureaus, the people who decide your fate.
Yeah.
My name is Long. And now for, about 18 years, received mail in the name of Longhurst. I get
Longhurst, oh yeah.
Yeah, nice. I've spelled my name to people my entire life.
Is it? Just to derail Rebecca's class entirely, where does lawn come from, lawn?
It's just a name.
I like it.
My mother had an uncle named Lon, but I'm not named after him, and his name was Alonzo. But my name is Lon. That's all there is.
There you go. I like it.
had I been smart when I joined, when I got my license, I would have changed it to London or something like that, something with 2 syllables.
Mm.
It's a little bit more memorable because it's, you know, an easily forgettable name, unfortunately.
Maybe I'll have a lab on naming and branding because
Yeah.
it's a thing, friends.
Yep.
It is a thing.
Sounds like a great idea. And on that note, I'm going to grab this back. Okay, so we're starting in. Everybody, can you see real tracks on the screen? Am I screen sharing? Fantastic. All right, and so I've talked about this. We've talked about this before in previous pricing pros, but for folks who are new today, Real Tracks is for those who've been in the business for a minute. Real Tracks is going through a major renovation change, and so for folks who may have been previously starting a search by going to a screen that looks like this and starting your search there, we don't want to do that anymore. This interface is going to be going away. So just as a reminder, if you have been starting your search from this screen, from this area, then we need to start practicing from the beta version, which they are coming out with updates and changes every day. So what you want to do, if you find yourself on this screen and you need to practice in the new interface, put the Real Tracks logo in the upper left, clicking on that. And this is the screen that you see just when you log in, when you just go to realtracks.com. Or to search with the quick search bar, and I'm just going to start typing 756 Alloway Street. Oh, there it is. Not Whoop, there it is, or Scoop, there it is, my new favorite commercial with the Geico commercial. All right, so it comes up 756 Alloway Street. Now, I happen to know that if it comes up and looks like this, and some of you know this already too, it's not currently currently listed or coming soon or under contract, showing or active, then it would pull you up directly to the MLS listing. But this one's not on the market right now. So this is what it shows you, but that's good. All right. This is basically information from CRS tax, right? So you can take a look there. Sales history. Oh, looks like it hasn't sold before. Well, that's kind of curious. Wonder what that's about. Go take a look at the map. So I want to see Alloway Street. I want it to put it on the map, and I'm going to be able to start my search, filtering down on my comps from here. So it's going to pull up the map. All right, and so here's my pin right there at Alloway Street. Now, what I want to do from here is I'm going to start with I'm going to draw an area. But the way I like to start, and this is just me, different ways, is you can draw up to 4 different shapes on a map. I like to start with a circle to give myself an idea of what a mile looks like. Whoa, I need to zoom out a little bit now, don't I? All right. And in sort of we're thinking like an appraiser might look for comps, would go out about a mile, no more than. There we go. Now, I don't like this shape for the search because it crosses over some major roads here. And generally, we don't want to cross a highway or a river or, whatnot. So I don't want to use that circle, but I'm going to use it to help me draw the shape that I'm going to want to use. All right. So just kind of. All right. So I'm just going to follow this for now. Just give a rough shape. I'll go up to Division Street. How about that? All right, so if you don't know how to use the drawing tool, you can, they're over here. You select, this is one where you just click points, right? And each place you want to, add a point to define your shape, you click. And then to get to seal the shape, you double click. It took me a while of like dragging this thing all over the map to realize I had to double click to stop. So now, then I went back and I took my circle away. All right. Don't have to do that. That's just the way I like to start it. Now, am I curious of everything that's in this area right now? Not really, but you can go ahead and run it, say search listings, and it's just going to show me everything that's going on right in there. All right. So I've got some stuff, 87 listings. I can look at it on the map. I can take a look at, I can switch to a list view and scroll through. All right. I can look at a grid view if I just want to quickly look through thumbnails. But I don't want to because I've got too much stuff in my funnel right now and I haven't really done much other than draw a shape on the map. Right? So I'm going to go back to my map view and I'm going to click refine search. All right. So first thing, the default when you run a search, the default I didn't mean to do that. Default, not what I meant to do. Listing statuses, the default that RealTrack selects for your active, coming soon, hold, under contract, showing. Anybody want to throw out something else that when we're running comps that we want to add a different listing status, other ones?
Yeah, closed.
Closed, excellent. And I think that was Latina. Latina, how far out do we want to look? Back.
6 months.
6 months. Pretty hot market right now, right? Lots of stuff going on. So 6 months may be enough. Anything else? Anybody else want to add or remove? Going once. Going
Maybe
twice.
take away active because they might I don't know, they might not give an accurate view of what things are worth.
So that's a great point. When we're doing comps, we're really most primarily interested in closed, right? Because that's what actually happens. For me, I'm going to argue that let's keep active in there, just see what's going on. We need to know what the competition is, right? So even if we're not going to use those numbers necessarily in our computation for our comps, we still want to know what's going on. So I'm going to leave it in, but that's a good point. All right, when we're actually coming up with a pricing strategy, we're really mostly interested in closed. All right, so for property class, we've talked about this in the past, and RealTrack is doing some improvement in this, but we know that we're looking in for Alloway happens to be an attached HPR. So we're looking in kind of this category. I just want residential, right? So I don't need these. All right, property class residential. And if you want to yell out any changes, say like, hey, wait, Rebecca, I think we should do this. And then within that property class of residential subtype, we're going to select all of them, except I happen to know that there's not any in there, but we're not really interested in that in terms of comparison. All right. Okay, now we get into some of the nitty gritty. We know what we want to be in Davidson County, but because I've used the map, I've limited it to Davidson County, so I don't really have to pick that. Subdivision, street number. Now we get down to the nitty gritty in terms of how we want to limit our comp properties. All right, beds. This is a four bed house, 3.5 baths. So somebody yell out, do we want to have a minimum number of beds here? I'll start the bidding at 3. And I don't generally put max. If we get a 7-bedroom home in this map, I would be very surprised. But so we'll do that. Let's do a minimum of How do we feel about 2 baths minimum or 3 baths? What do you feel? We'll go 2. The square footage is 2779. So I want to go pretty broad on this. So I'm going to go 2,000 and we'll go up to 3,500. Again, we're just trying to limit a little bit. We don't have to get to the end game immediately. Again, this is an iterative process. So I like to start not endlessly broad, but start broad, run the search, see what I find, and then start chipping down to something that I feel like it's really an accurate, tight comp list. Stories, I'm not going to limit that. Year built, this one was built in 2018. So we don't want anything that's too old or too, I don't really want to compare it just from what I know right now, what I see right now. Do I want to compare it to new construction? Thoughts? Let's just leave that blank for now. We'll come back to it. All
Is
right.
everybody sleeping? I'm hearing no answers. I need your help here, friends. Come on.
This is Ted's listing.
I don't
So-
care about it's my listing, but I mean, if you're gonna show up, like show up. Let's at least hear it. I don't care if it's wrong. Just give us a guess.
That's
Help
my
us, sister.
question about whether or not you should do new listing. I guess 3 years out, is there like a normal time frame where it kicks that out of new listings, especially if the construction's similar?
No, it's just based on date, if you put a date in there. Now, there is a limiter for new construction, but it's not a selection. You have to add it. So we can touch on that later. Like, if you don't see, like, I don't see, where can I click that I want a pool, a swimming pool? I don't see that here. We have the ability to add that as a filter, but we just have to add it later. So I'll come back to that. But that's a good point. But no, if we're using the year built, there's no kick out number for new construction. All right. Only show listings with open houses. Nope. Include auctions. Do we want to include auctions?
No.
Okay,
No.
good. I say absolutely. Because in RealTracs, auctions have no listing price. All right, it's 0. So, I mean, if you just want to know if there happens to be an auction close by, great. But for our purposes, right here, we're in the area we're looking in, probably not. So let's not include auctions. All right, let's run a search. $96 listings. How is that possible? That seems like a lot when we added our limiters. So let's see what we did wrong, what we need to fix, what we need to change. Ted, you got any ideas?
Do I have ideas? Of course I do. Can you take me back to the search?
Yes, sir, will do.
Make
Well.
it 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms.
We'll try. Okay. We've got residential property,
Yep,
site
so
built.
right there, I would, so because you asked, I'll give you how I do it. And I mean, this one still to me is a little bit tough to comp, but it is a attached. It's an HPR, so immediately I'm going to get rid of all site built homes.
Okay.
Rebecca, it's Andrea here. It looks like, just from the address list, it looks like it pulled in 12 South too. Yes? No?
It may have. We'll look.
Pull in the did it pull in the other side of the 65? Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I just.
We'll look at the map in just a second. That's a good point,
Okay.
Andrea. Thank you.
As I kind of do it, sometimes I do bounce forth. I may hit search again to see where I'm at, but I'll go ahead and give you my other considerations. But actually, could we do that? Rebecca, just hit search and see what our number is real quick before we make other tweaks.
Sure.
All right, so we go from 96 to 70. Okay, we're getting better. Could we go back to search?
Yes. as soon as it gives me control back, I will go back to search.
Sure.
All right.
All right. Can you go under the statuses there again? I'm sorry, you didn't include expireds or withdrawals, correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Great. Let's go back to,
Okay.
yeah, a lot of I mean, a 4-bedroom is obviously much more marketable than a 3. However, in typical comp purposes, I would include exactly what she did there. The subject property is how many square feet, Rebecca?
2,779, 2779.
That's what I was going to say.
I'd put the bottom at least probably 22 to 2,300.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never split the difference, right? All right.
And then I would put a 2-car garage minimum. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure I have a 2-car garage. And actually, if you run the search before you do that, you can kind of see, I do the search each time, so I see what factors are influencing my numbers. So I'm down to 50, which is still pretty good. I may go down and put that 2-car garage if in fact the subject has that, which I believe it does.
It does. It's a 2-car detached garage.
Yep. So that still carries a lot of value.
Okay. Go down here.
So then I run my search.
33.
Yeah, and so even though that number seems like that's reasonable, the biggest factor that influences the price of this home, besides the things we've talked about, would be clicking on that map. And for me, here's the big challenge is that map includes a lot of things down in what is called Gulch View, which is everything, we'll call that north of Edge Hill. And those properties you're going to see are $1 million+ properties. Those are a lot of things that carry short-term rental permits. The biggest challenge in comping this property is you're going to have a lot of short-term rental allowable properties that show up in its comp search.
Do you want me to adjust the map?
When I did the comps, I mean, I ended up having to hand select because those things could still be considered comps. There's just some that have a view. But I think it will help you for sure.
Is there going to be at some point, Ted, have you like connected with RealTracks to say to them to add a kind of an STR, non-owner occupied, like anything as a, can they do that to show up on RealTracks at some point? So that we actually know, you know, let's say you're working with an investor, right? Trying to help them find properties that are eligible for that or not.
I have not. It seems enormously obvious that someone would have done that or that is being done, but that is a great point, and I would suggest submitting a RealTracks ticket on that.
Okay.
As Rebecca is doing right now. She is frozen on my screen. Is Rebecca frozen on anybody else's screen?
Yeah, she's frozen for me.
Okay. She maybe can't. I thought she's on Google Fiber too, so it's mine. It might take time for a router reset over there.
Am I still frozen?
Yeah.
Visually you are, but we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Let me, yeah, well, okay. But you can still see my screen, right? I reran the comps with the adjusted map.
Yes.
Okay. And that put it down to 16. Do you like that or no likey?
It's certainly, yeah, a lot better. Is this not the version where you can see where the subject property is on the map?
To do that, we'll do center because I lost my pen when we were running things, right?
Yep.
And we'll type in 756 Alloway Street. There it is. Oop. Where'd it go? That's strange. There we go. All right, there's my pin. There's my pin. Right there. Did Ted just go away? I think Ted just went away. Could someone let me know if you can still hear me?
We can hear you.
Hear you.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm not sure where Ted went. All right, so looks like you got a phone call. So in here we've got, let's take a look at the list now. All right, we've taken a lot and we've put it in the funnel and we've pushed it down, and then we've filtered it some more and pushed it down, and now we're showing 16 comps. So let's not take the time at the moment to go through each of them, but let's just go on and do a CMA with these. We've done a pretty good job of filtering, so we'll look at the CMA that this generates, and then we can go through and as he said, we can pick and choose, hand pick their ones that don't belong here, and pick those out.
How are those being sorted, Rebecca? Why are those being sorted? Why are those being sorted in like under contract, closed, active? Those aren't in an order as I typically see them. Just curious.
So I don't know what order they are when you just run oh, they're from lowest price to highest price.
Okay.
Yeah. I usually see them from highest price to lowest price, so I may have clicked something, but the default is by this. But then you can, if you want to do it by square foot or list price per square foot when it was built, you can click either little. I want to know how many half baths.
And just so you know, the view that she is seeing is a custom layout. So you'll notice the listing agent appears. That is not your default view. You can customize the view in which your listings and searches are displayed. That is customizable.
All right, so we're going to go on and do a CMA based on this. We've done quite a bit of filtering and tweaking. Let's just see what this CMA looks like right now. All right, so I'm going to select everything. Again, we can go back and take a look at each of these and see if anything needs to be pulled out or assess if we seem to be missing something that we know should be there. But let's select all of these and then go to the three dots up here. And this is where you have your option for your CMA. You can do a cloud CMA, buyer tour property report. This is a new feature. Now, let's say you see the number one that you need to put an offer on. You can select just that single one and then go to transaction desk and it'll pre-populate all the information. But we're not doing that. We're not ready. Okie dokie. So I'm going to do a CMA. All right. And here we have, this probably looks familiar to everyone. Here is the actives, which as was mentioned earlier, we're not as interested in these, not nearly as interested in actives from a pricing assessment situation, but it's good to know what's going on, especially in this market. What else is out there? What's the competition? There's under contract showing, and our mother load of closed. All right. All right. So at this point, we take a look and go through. We've limited it to a 2-car garage. We have a minimum of 3 bedrooms. You can see the spread of year built looks pretty good. The average is 2015, the median is 2015, ours is 2018. So feeling pretty good about that. You can see for days on market, this is just, does this surprise anyone? We've only looked at closed in the last 6 months. Does this surprise anyone knowing what you know and what you feel and what you divine about the market today? Anybody want to call out, does this look a little interesting? What are the average days on market in Nashville right now?
Not sure.
Not sure.
They're
Okay.
not very long.
So not very long. Okay, we'll go with that. You do want to sort of pay attention to that. Not very long. The general feeling is that things are going under contract fairly quickly, right? So we've got 266, 123. So when you see something like that, the next thing I want to look at is the list price for sale. If I'm really interested in, do I really want to include this one? I'm going to look at, for example, list price per square foot to sale price per square foot, or list price to sales price. You know, it was probably overpriced to start with, right? Why it stayed on the market so long in this market, this one too. What do you think? Is that a reasonable assessment?
Well, or is it possibly that they were trying to pre-sell for a while at a certain price point too? Do you think? I mean, that could also come into consideration, that like if it's a new construction, group of new like cottages at look, so let's say those are new homes to be built, and they were
Right.
throwing it out at a certain, price and had it on for a while.
Yeah, good point, Andrea. And it could be, although the year built was 2013, so maybe not. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so anyway, lots of good information in here. Don't want to dive too far into the weeds, but again, for the CMA, just for this purpose, yes, if this is your listing, Teddy really needs to dig into the weeds here. But does anyone have any questions or ways that you'd like to adjust this search for comps,
Well,
or ideas about things we didn't look at?
Well, if you think it's too high, would you go ahead and reduce your list down more and just take those two out?
If you think these prices are too high. Well, what I'm most interested in, and this goes to the exact same point of active properties versus closed properties. We're not as interested in the list price per square foot, like what it was listed at. We want to know the sales price per square foot. But where this information can help us is, let's say this is our property, this one that was on the market, this 1101 South Douglas. And we've run the comps, and we're the professionals. We've got the insight, the tools, the information, the knowledge. And our seller says, I want to list it at 880. We're like, okay, all right, hear you. Let me show you some information that show, where, my assessment would be somewhere between, I don't know, let's start at, 825 to 850. I really don't think we should cross over that 850 threshold. And we can talk to them about, there's certain price breaks in terms of, pricing. If somebody's looking for up to 850, and that's really where they need to be, they're not going to look at something that's 880, right? You're marketing to the wrong group. Right? You're not reaching the right group, because it's the folks who really want to buy this house, if it should be priced around 840, 850, are not going to be looking at an 880 price. And the folks who are really looking for the $875,000 to $900,000 house are going to look at this property and probably say, that's not an $880,000 house. No way. Right? So one of the reasons we really want to get our pricing right, because we want to attract the right buyers, right? We don't want to miss out on folks who we really want to be marketing to. Comments?
I have a question. When you have your list of comparable properties, if you do want to take out some,
Sure,
for whatever reason, how do you do that?
Great question. Thank you. And I'm sorry, everybody's teensy tiny. And I don't have my glasses on, so I don't know who said that, but thank you for the question.
Kathleen.
Kathleen, thank you. All right, so here's our list of our 16 properties. And let's say, which one did we just, we'll just pick one. All right, so I'm going to select all of them, but wait, I've looked through, and this is one way I like to look through. I like to go to the grid view. and just kind of scroll through and see if anything jumps out at me. For example, if it said sold as is, you're like, I'm going to dig into that one a little bit and see what's going on there. You know, if in the public remarks it said built on an ancient Indian Native American burial grounds, I might say, okay, let's take that out. That could affect price. I hope I didn't violate fair housing with that. And I probably did. I'm sorry. So just glancing through. Is there anything that sticks out at me like, oh, you know, this one, look, let's just say this one, 1002 Caldwell, let's just say for the sake of argument, it looks like a tear down. It says as is. It says no repairs will be made. Or if it says for comp purposes only, meaning it may be not an arm's length sale or something like that. And let's say we want to take that one out. Then I can do it a couple ways. I can either uncheck the box here in the grid view, clicky, or I can go back to the list view and it should still be removed. That was 1002 Caldwell, sure enough. See, it's not on the list anymore. But let's say that I want to add it back. Oop, nope, just kidding, want to take it out. So you can take it out that way and then go back up here. And you can either, you can redo the search or you don't have to, you can just go straight to CMA. And you should find that 1002 Caldwell is no longer in your list.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So is it beneficial to just specifically look at the data and the hard numbers? When I was working with my buyer on a purchase price, she was getting really into the fact that some had been renovated, the one we were putting an offer on hadn't. Do you go through the photos and things like that to determine? And sorry if I'm cutting out. I don't know if that Wi-Fi is doing.
No, I heard the question.
Okay.
Teddy, you want to field that question?
Sure. The answer is, I would say, the simple answer is yes. But as in comps, there's always an asterisk, and in real estate, it depends. If it's new construction, then obviously I would compare it to only new construction if you have enough data to support that. Or we'll call it recent construction, things within the last 2 years, where their colors and trends and finishes are going to be on trend, okay? The biggest variable when you're looking at HPR property like this is its rental status. Its ability to be short-term rented has any monstrous effect on what its valuation is, which is why I'm struggling with what to price this property at. It cannot be short-term rented. And so you have to go through each of these properties and sort out anything that's short-term eligible. And the way to do that, of course, is click on them and eliminate those. You just have to do it and go through each one. But I always will try to go through the photos. I typically do that in my follow-up meeting, as you mentioned or may have learned from the Jumpstart. I'll go do the listing presentation. I'll bring these preliminary comps. I would probably write next to them, like I may take all this data and I'd write an S or an STR next to the ones that, like, just with my pen, so that I know these are STR, because they're looking at this data and they're not taking it into account. So they're going to ask, well, why did he not include this one or this one? So I may print out one that has all this data and I would indicate the STRs, and then I would use one that that didn't, so they could see that only had the non-STR properties in it. That's very important when you're looking at like HPR style properties, because there's so much of it and the valuation is so much higher. I mean, it's like looking at Ford and Tesla stock right now. It just really is. There's a frenzy about it. And, what that can do from a cash flow perspective is significant. And for example, there's a property that's on off of 8th Avenue, and like it's their last chance to sell and transfer their rental permit. So right now the property's worth about $1 million. They paid $650. And after this year, their ability to transfer that rental permit goes away. So its valuation is likely going to drop. So just be mindful of those nuances, especially when pricing what's called like HPRs. Yeah, good question. So yes, I will go through those things. You do have to look. I mean, you know, you don't want to get in the weeds with, oh my gosh, that one has new paint and ours doesn't. But if you in general see, like this one clearly has been renovated, granite countertops, opened walls, you know, versus one that doesn't, yeah, it's going to be worth more for sure.
So Teddy, I actually had a question about that. So I know that when a appraiser is looking at a property, because you want to price it to where it would appraise, they're not taking into account things typically such as like, I don't know, if they put up restoration hardware, blinds and curtains all throughout the home that would be staying, or they put up, you know, anthropology wallpaper that's hundreds of dollars per thing. But do you ever get that where your clients give you major pushback because they're like, well, all this stuff comes with our home and it's so much nicer?
The only time I get pushback on that is anytime I take a listing. So
because that's what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely, Sarah. You got them fancy ass people that you work with. Yes, and part of what you're going to say is, look, the market has appreciation for that, but they don't have the same valuation that you likely have for it, and nor will the appraiser. So what I would promise to do is I'm going to include a list of your improvements where I'm going to just exhaustively share how special and unique and collectible all the things you put in this home are. And I will share that with the appraiser once we're under contract and I go meet with them. However, for the purposes of comping, you know, I think we have a possibility to price our home a little bit higher than the neighboring ones but know that most buyers are not going to pay you for certain things that maybe you paid for. If they look a lot better, great. But most of the fact, it's not like they're buying Gucci leather, right? It just doesn't work the same. It's just about aesthetically, how does it look? Nobody necessarily cares, or I don't find people really care as much anymore about what brand it is.
Agreed.
With respect to finishes like that. Now, Toto toilets, maybe, but again, a Toto toilet with a bidet is $2,200.
Right.
They're not going to give you $2,200 more. They might give you $500, but you're not likely going to see an appraiser go toilet adjustments, $400 per toilet.
Well, also because don't appraisers think in minds as far as like, okay, well, those curtains might convey with the home as they do in the standard purchase and sale agreement.
100%.
But
yeah,
if someone misses their payment, they could rip them off.
Yeah, and curtains are a big. You're right. I've had clients 50 to 100,000 in curtains. Like, it's really not going to factor into the appraisers. I will put it on my list. I will meet that appraiser and explain to them these do convey, and they were $100,000, and I'd even show them a receipt. You'll be lucky if they give you 30%. Lucky.
Teddy,
Cool.
Teddy, what about high-end appliances versus kind of just the run-of-the-mill Whirlpool, blah, blah? I've got some similar clients who are like, oh, but this is Thermador. Oh, but and the thing is.
That's a thing. Yeah, that's a thing. Thermador versus Frigidaire is definitely a marketable difference. And my price would reflect that. But again, dollar for dollar, you're probably going to get 50 to 30% of that valuation difference. Okay. So let's say the Thermador package was $10,000, the Frigidaire was $3,000. I would take maybe 30% of the $10,000 package. I maybe add $2,000 to $3,000 to that price valuation for that improvement in pricing. So it's like everything in life. If you better want it when you buy it, because nobody's going to pay you for it when you go to resell it.
Right.
It's really more about, you know, it's not all about square footage, but yes, Thermador, yeah, of course, somebody's going to appreciate that more. Absolutely. And it's actually an expectation in certain price points of home. In fact, as you know, I mean, obviously, if you put Frigidaire in a home that would otherwise take Thermador, that would be considered inappropriate.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for clarifying.
Can you still hear us, Rebecca? You're frozen, but I see you're off mute.
I can hear.
Okay, cool.
And so, go ahead, Lon.
I think it's also important to remember what is chattel and what is real property when you're talking about price, because the appraiser is not going to be thrilled about curtains and wallpaper and paint.
Yes.
This might be a really dumb question. In fact, I'm embarrassed that I'm asking it. But wallpaper, like you can't remove wallpaper and move it somewhere else, right? Like you put it on and it's there.
Not
Right.
typically. It's not a dumb question. There are no dumb questions. The dumb questions are not asked. I'm serious, Sarah. Don't even ever qualify. Remove that language from your questions. Always. There are no dumb questions.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm serious.
And
I'm serious. There are no dumb questions.
the answer to that is you cannot repurpose wallpaper.
Okay.
I mean, unless it's a decal kind of thing that's, you know, like a vinyl decal kind of, maybe the adhesive can be like, but for the most part, it's done.
Perfect.
And it's
Which
highly-
then even goes further to the point with helping convey that to your sellers as like, you might think this is gorgeous and I agree, but
right.
you can't take it with you. So you knew that when you applied it, and someone might move in here and think that's the most disgusting wallpaper they've ever seen.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you're going to get in an argument with them if they don't want to agree with you on price, which is fine, tell them to get an appraisal. That appraisal is going to be less than what you're telling them, most likely. So just say, hey, I think it's really important. You've got a very specialty property here. I think it would be in your best interest for 2 reasons to get a professional appraisal. One, we're going to have an accurate measurement on your home so that in case when a buyer makes an offer, we don't have to be the least bit concerned that their appraiser finds a different number and that creates an issue on valuation. And secondly, I think it's important that you have a professional third-party opinion about your pricing, because I assure you, I do not want to leave a nickel on the table. Would you be open to getting a professional appraisal? I can call some resources and see if I can get one out here soon. I'll tell you their fees average between, $400 and $800.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you guys.
You're absolutely welcome. I still would love, go ahead.
With that in mind, the current appraisal, I guess it's catch as catch can, because like right now, what a property is going to appraise for versus, let's say you're doing a preliminary meeting and the house is getting ready to sell, but they won't sell till the summer. I mean, I had this discussion with Angela the other day, because right now you can garner, because of the inventory being so low, you can garner more money, right, than you can possibly once the vaccine's up and the market's kind of changing a bit. So I don't imagine an appraiser is going to really think in those terms, really. They're just going to go based on
In which terms?
Well, in the terms that so you're trying to price the house, and a lot of folks right now are gaming the market and coming on the market because they know that there's low inventory. So they're getting ridiculous amounts of money for properties that
Well, let's just be clear. Yeah, they're getting market value. Mm-hmm.
Right. They're getting market value, but ideally 6 well, maybe not 6 months ago.
It doesn't matter. Today is the market, and the appraisers, we're not seeing a ton of short appraisals, thank God. So
right.
Appraisers, I think, are doing a pretty good job keeping up with it.
That's what I want to make sure, because I'm.
Well, there is, yeah, and it's hard to make sure of that. If I may, and I'm just trying to be mindful of everyone's time here to kind of push us along here, Andrew. I not want to cut your question short, but look, the appraisers, the best thing you can do is meet the appraiser at the house and give them the list of all improvements or upgrades or anything special about that house.
Okay.
But the truth is, yes, something's worth more now than it will be likely in a year when inventory is up and the market crashes. I'm getting emails from companies that says foreclosures and REOs are coming. So they're proposing, it's not if, when, or when, friends, the Piper is coming to play. Don't worry, the market will crash. It will change. I don't know when, but I guarantee you it will happen. And so it's just the cycle of markets over the last 100 years.
Okay.
And
all
so
right.
Appraisers are doing that. Does it mean you should tell a buyer it's not a good time to buy? No. Everyone tells me, what's the best, what does Rebecca tell me? What's the best time to plant a tree 20 years ago? What's the second best day? Today. So you know, it's if you plan to hold Tesla stock for a long time, buy it, because who knows? It's probably going to go down and it'll go up, just like housing will. You know, it serves more purpose than just being an investment. It serves obviously being the roof over your head. So I think those things are really.
Okay, so that answers my concern about appraisers being mindful of the current market. That's the.
But again, they're human and they're like realtors. I
Yeah.
could bring out 40 realtors and I could get wildly different opinions because one is going to forget to be mindful of HPRs. That is the number one factor that influences the sale of this home, besides location. And I'm hoping we leave this call with some opinions on pricing because I need them. I'd love to hear some numbers. Rebecca, are you still there?
Hey, Ted.
Yeah.
So looking at this list, do you in your head, are you thinking that the 3 2s should still be in this mix?
No.
Can we get rid of those and like call this down?
Yeah, I think there's, from what I see in that list, there's not a lot of 3 2s up until that 825. And so I'm hoping, but yeah, we could. I mean, you can see that the bedrooms don't necessarily have the total correlation. You can see there's a Caldwell Townhomes at a 5-bedroom there. But yeah, I think we could get rid of those. Rebecca, can you hear us?
Or at least the 2-bathroom
Yes.
things? To me, those.
Yes,
that
I think that's a
strikes me
good
as
idea.
an animal.
Yep. Again, I don't know if you all have gone through. Have you gotten out rid of all the STRs, or has that been distinguished between these lists?
No, we have not. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, great. So, and that'll be that. I'm gonna put that as a like a focus on another pricing pros, how you would go through and identify which ones are STR eligible. It'll also address, you know, we can address Andrea's question about, will RealTracs have that field in there someday to make it easier? I mean, we can have a whole class on that, right? But the answer is no, those haven't been pulled out of this list. If you can, in a couple of minutes, tell us kind of how you go through that process to identify which ones to pull out or leave in.
Yep, I just start by clicking on the first MLS number.
Okay.
Click on the first MLS number to open up that individual MLS, please.
So I did, and I see 2207 11th Avenue South. Do you see that?
No, sorry. My screen might be hung up. I see the list view right here.
Okay. Let's see. All right, let me go back. It may be.
What does everyone else see on your screen?
My screen's or Rebecca's screen is frozen for me.
I see her moving her thing, but I see.
I see her moving her mouse on the list view. Does everyone see list view?
Yes.
I need to click on the first MLS number, Rebecca, the blue 2176582, please.
I did.
Oh, okay.
And you don't see it?
No.
You don't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So I would.
Sorry, you're probably about to answer my question. Do you just go through and look at all the remarks?
Exactly. That's exactly what I do. I go through the remarks and it'll say it right there. Typically, the agents are very keen to it. And if it says short-term rental, I deselect that listing, and then I go back to my list view and I narrow my checked ones just to see those. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's typically how I would do that. I've got to get rid of those in order to see the
apples to apples.
Yeah.
But I will add that the information that's in the MLS is only as good or as accurate as what the agents put in. And, you know, sometimes they put in it's STR eligible, but maybe they don't understand, you know, it's being used as an STR today, but they don't understand that the permit doesn't travel with or something. So just wanted to put that caveat to the remarks that, that agents put in.
I know that getting that permit is so incredibly complicated. And so when a client just kind of asks you if it would be plausible, it's not a simple yes or no answer. But
They're
is
not
it kind
giving
of a standard
permits.
rule of thumb for HPRs that like you cannot get an STR permit for an HPR unless you own all of them?
You own both sides. They are not giving
Both
you
sides,
permits, so you can just tell them that's not happening. You need to buy something that is STR eligible from the very beginning.
From the get-go.
And the reason that it is because it is not zoned residential. So that's how all the new STRs are getting around that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting something rezoned or becoming STR eligible, highly unlikely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right, I stopped the screen share just because it seemed like it wasn't sharing as much. I apologize. For those of you who don't know, I fight with my husband for bandwidth here, and he must be winning right now. So sorry about that. All right. Well, it is 9:59, so we've only gone over 29 minutes today. I think that's excellent. So I do want to, I always like to share a pricing pro tip before we go. But before I do that, I just want to thank everyone. If you need to go, I know 10 o'clock's a sacred time for a lot of people. You got calls to make and stuff. But does anyone want to share any pricing suggestions you've had? You can also reach out to him individually, put it in the chat. I haven't zeroed in on STRs and that yet, but I'm leaning towards, this is, again, I'm going to need to do some more filtering, but I'm leaning in that 775 to 800 range.
Okay. Definitely not in the range of what I've been telling my sellers, so. That's concerning.
What have you been telling your sellers?
He wants 850 to 875.
I think.
So,
And are you finding comps that support that?
they're a bit all over the map, but the stuff that I've looked at, I mean, it's there is some comp data in there. I mean, it's once you get rid of the STRs, it gets a little more dicey for sure.
So since we weren't able to see that when you got rid of the STRs, then what was the comp? What were the comps looking more like? Like I know it's more narrow. So what was the pricing point then?
It put me in the mid eights, low to mid eights. I mean, here's the map. Here's the challenge in 6 months. You know, my property is right here. Look at where all the comp data is. Okay, so that's my challenge. Is that if I go with 2,300 to 3,500 and a 4.3, built in 2017 or newer, with a 2-car garage, and I'm looking at HPRs only. I could add a 0 lot line. I don't have a ton of data, right? You know what I do know? There's only one house on the market for 884.8, and that is to be built. And so that is a big influence in what people pay, is the limited amount of inventory. So when I go back to this list, then I think, okay, here's the things that have sold. I mean, here's one that sold at 750 on Gulchview and a 4.3.5. You know, I look at it, okay, that's similar to us. That's probably a pretty good comp. Listed January, let's see, it listed in November, it sold, it took till mid-January to sell. Probably some reasons in there. This one doesn't look short-term eligible. This is nice. You know, this is a good comp to us. I always can tell it's short-term rental. Why? How many people have 2 beds in 1 room?
Yeah.
That doesn't look like an Airbnb bedroom. I don't know what is. Like, this is Airbnb all over it. Okay. Amazing views of the skyline, so that has influence on that. Surprised it took that long to sell, but it may be because people were hesitant to do the Airbnb thing. This mentions nothing about it, but clearly I can see that thing was Airbnb. So, oh, where was that? Renting permitted under restrictions. Don't count on this as being something that agents are doing properly or that it means anything.
Well, I hate to beat the proverbial dead horse, but just because it's currently being used as an Airbnb does not
That's
mean
right.
that it could be going forward. So I just want to put that caveat out there.
Yep.
And this is one of those areas when you think about our obligations to our clients, our sellers, not to practice beyond our area of expertise. And if you don't understand STRs and zoning and that, find somebody who does and educate yourself and figure it out. Pair up with someone, or refer it out. If you have a client who's looking for an STR and you don't understand it, then you could do yourself and your client a major disservice. So
this is just STR Central down there. When you look at that map, everything down here is just a yard sale of STRs. Some of them have downtown views. So, it's hard because, again, I'm right here. I wouldn't say I have a bad location, right? I mean, it's just not as much in STRs. So, I mean, we're stretching it. And then I've got to add the caveat that there's tenants in there. So I'm having to work with tenants and showings and figure out how to potentially do open houses. I've got 4 tenants that live in this property. And of course, the seller doesn't want us to, quote, spook the tenants to have them move because they likely want to stay. So he wants all the perfect things. He's a typical investor, right? We didn't sell at the time we finished because he couldn't get the price he wanted, so he rented it, and it brings 35 or 4 grand a month. But he recognizes the market's hot right now, and maybe this is the time to sell it and move the money into other things. So that's why we're down this road.
Hey Ted, what's the little orange on the map? That's what
It's
price is that?
it's
When you
under
look-
contract, not
that's-
showing.
That's okay.
Yeah, but those are really good comps in my opinion, because like those show like 850 to 872. Those aren't in the area down there.
Yeah.
And so if now this is new construction, so somebody who's going to pay a premium, here, heads up, friends, right here, zoned RM20 and non-owner occupied STRP eligible. So that's probably a pretty big reason that influenced that price. Double-ended it, likely not a comp. So we'll do like he typically wants to do, overprice it, sit on the market, not sell, piss off the renters, and then do a price drop, friend. And like we shouldn't do, I hopefully won't break my rules and tell him, but he always a typical investor, right? He's a banker on the side, and they all want like the best price possible and not taking into account like what it's probably really worth. And so I may have a revised conversation with him after this and say, I don't know that that we're going to pull that. I definitely don't feel good about 875 anymore. I mean, can I pull 850? Here's what I know. So then what I do is I start backing off. Maybe I'll start backing things up. Maybe I'll go to 3 bedrooms and see what's the big disparity between something that's 3 bedroom, 3 bath with a 2-car garage, like in that range, in that map area. Now I have 15 results. So I start saying, okay, well, here's a 3-bed for $1 million. Anything that sold $1 million. Again, a lot of these are probably short-term rentals. What if I back off this bath? We're likely going to see this open up. But again, remember, I'm not looking at single-family homes. So we've got 16 results. Watch when I go to single-family homes. Drum roll, please. Oh my gosh.
Here's the issue about having the tenants that at their current rent rate, they're not going to cover anybody's note. Like there's going to be no profit in it.
That's right. I need an owner occupied. And there's people that looking for roofs from what I hear about in the newspaper. So exactly what Sylvia wrote, really look at what else a buyer could buy for $850. Exactly. Do you see any actives? I see one at $884 that's to be built. So that's telling me things here. I mean, it's what we all know in here. But if you want to live somewhere in this area, let's just get rid of this. And let's just say somebody wants to live, I don't know, you don't want to live in that mess, but you know, you want to live somewhere around Vanderbilt, right? Whatever. 9 homes, 2 on the market, friends. I mean, if you need a 3-bed, 2-bath and you want something newer, so the year built's probably screwing us up a little bit. The garage is screwing it up a little bit. This is the sad state of affairs for buyers. For those that are working with buyers, you know. In town, garages are hard to find, so let's get rid of garages and see what that brings up. 28 homes, but again, how many are active? Got 8 homes active, and they range from 979 to 650. So let's look at this little gem at 825. Been on the market 33 days, it's attached. Yeah, I'm with you, Sylvia. So I'm focusing on this at the moment. So I always go down, look at, did they make any price drops? They started at 825, they're not at 835, so that's within a price category, right? They're not priced at 829.9, which could have influence. Modern, cool, cute, all the things, right? And then I'll read down here. So 825, this is interesting, right? So this is someone that this has been on 33 days. This is probably a good comp. What will I do? I will go right here. I'll copy that listing. I'll put that over in a note, my note program, and I'll make a paste of that. Okay, so I put my client name up here, and I'll put Alloway, and then I just start saving that list of things that I want to make sure I keep as comps. Make sense?
Except that's for sale, right? That's not under contract or closed.
It is, but it's just me helping look at, okay, this one isn't selling, that's at 825. Maybe that brings in a piece of like data for me to show like where is the border of the bowling alley.
Right.
That's just kind of what I look at. And maybe there's other factors or reasons why that is. I know we're way over for those that want to go. I'm not trying to take this class long. I was in it, and obviously I'm looking at those things. So like here, this one puts immediately no STR.
Yeah, I think this broadening and like getting rid of the garage and doing that as the crow flies, what can somebody buy with 850? They're not necessarily going, gosh, I really need an HPR. And I think sometimes when we get stuck, or I think it's kind of the argument for not going too narrow to start with, and then looking at the CMA and going, what are the outliers here? Let's kick those out and like start looking at the pictures. And this is why comps take so long. It's not like a 20-minute thing.
Yes, and PS, when you see, I said no STR, that is not what that stands for. That's non-owner occupied, short-term rental eligible. So this is eligible for a non-owner occupied. Thank you, Rebecca. So there you go. I'm no closer to a price. I'm kidding. I really, this is very helpful, but you can see this is a good example of what's out there. And when you get into certainly things that are HPRs, it gets dicey. This data is helpful here. I mean, maybe, I don't know. You know, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what it comes down to.
I just got to drop this little gem for funsies. When this was on the market, last on the market, it was less than 2 years ago. It was withdrawn in April of 2019, and it did not sell at $591. And the investor now wants, would you say 850, 870?
He wants what the market wants. And so, you know, that's what he wants. He wants me to tell him what's the market gonna, he's a reasonable guy. He'll listen to what I tell him, but the data is kind of all over the map. And you know, what it was priced at 2 years ago has no bearing on what it is today.
I just did it for a funsy little thing.
No, it is a funsy.
And you know, when you look at that, you know, if you were to look at withdrawns as the, you know, status and in the list, you would see that it was withdrawn at, you know, oh well, it didn't sell at $591. Hey, all bets are off. It's a new day, folks. So
I do think you're right, though. Maybe the 825 is a better bet. Certainly, when we look at this other data, it certainly may have, it has some influence. So more digging is needed on my behalf.
More digging. All right.
Don't
Ted,
forget, friends, C2EX starts at 8:30. Yes, go ahead, Rebecca. I got
one word answer, please. Was this helpful to you in your process?
It is. Yes, it is.
Oh, great. Well, if anyone has a listing upcoming or just something that's vexing you, a property, let us know. Our next Pricing Pros will be in 2 weeks, Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel. A quick PSA, Ted, thank you for sharing your screen to help us go through the process. But you'll notice Ted is using the old interface. Please remember to try to practice with the new interface in RealTracks because they will be cutting that off in several months. So with that said, that's all I have.
C2EX 10:30, Rebecca. C2EX 10:30. She is leading. For those that are interested in C2EX, incredible program. I'll let you share more information on that.
Right now. C2EX, the National Association of Realtors program, Commitment to Excellence program. It's an amazing program to help promote your professionalism and your competency, and it's a great platform, learning platform, and you can get an endorsement from it. It doesn't cost anything, and it's really easy, and I thought it was kind of fun. So just kind of check it out. It's it'll help you get started just to try it out, see if you like it, try before you buy. So please join us. And Ted, are you still there? Nope, he's gone. All right. Thank you all so very much. Thanks for participating today. If you have any suggestions for how to do things differently, better, you know, we're still a work in progress on Pricing Pros, but thank you so much for coming to work out with us today.
Cool. See you guys soon.